This is All India Radio. Yuvavani. Hello listeners, welcome to tonight's Yuvavani. Have you seen people who doubt and have difficulty in tolerating uncertainty? Or people who have unreasonable thoughts, fears or worries? Probably you would have heard the word OCD when you see them. OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. What is it? What are the symptoms of it? And the person with OCD, what will be his behavior? Let's listen in to Misbah Sayeeda M, who is talking about Obsessive Compulsive Disorder.
Good evening to everyone that has tuned in. I'm Misbah Sayeeda M. I recently graduated from St. Joseph's University in Bachelor's of Biotechnology. My main field of interest has been science from the time I started learning the basics of it. The thing that drives me about science is that I'm able to learn the intricacies of the imperceivable mechanisms which drive me to choose biotechnology as my major. Today, the topic that I'll be presenting to you is a science-related topic, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, also known as OCD. If you're like most people, you probably think OCD looks like arranging the color pens in the right order. And maybe someday you've said something on the lines of, oh my gosh, I'm so OCD, I have to check my alarm like 3 times before I'm able to fall asleep at night. And you've probably heard someone say, yeah, I'm gonna need you to be a bit more OCD about this, okay? None of this is OCD. A little over 1% of people have experienced OCD in the past year. That's way less common than most anxiety disorders. While OCD is not that common, it is a serious problem. About half the people who have OCD experience severe impairment from it. What that means is everyday things like going to the bathroom, returning messages, going around town, being at school, being at work, being around the people we care about feels so difficult, becomes so anxiety-provoking, and it takes so much time when you have OCD. When you say, oh, I'm so OCD, but we're really talking about double checking and wanting things to be organized and clean. We belittle the experience of OCD and the serious difficulties that people with this disorder have in their daily lives. Obsessive compulsive disorder is not a choice. It's not a preference either. OCD, as a matter of fact, is a biologically based problem. While we are not 100% sure of what caused it, we know it's not your fault that you have it. It's something that probably started in childhood and got a lot worse during your teenage and young adult years. The neuroscience here can get really complicated really quickly. But to simplify it all the parts of the brain that are responsible for rewards, for example, the orbitofrontal cortex, error detection, that is the anterior cingulate cortex, movement, that is the limbic structures, and memories. All of these parts of the brain don't really communicate well with each other. Because the brain of someone with OCD is wired a little bit differently, they are unsure if a simple task is complete or not. Like for example, for most people who turn off the light switch, your brain registers that the task is complete and you are able to move forward with your life. But for people with OCD, they flip a light switch and then there is still some anxiety in their head. And your mind tries to make some sense of that anxiety. It creates a whole story around it. Well, maybe I didn't turn it off all that way because there is some dust stuck in there. And if I don't do this again, maybe something could happen. Like there could be an electrical fire and the whole house might burn down. This is what our brains do so well, creating narratives and stories to make sense out of the chaos of the world. Except, in the case of OCD, they are trying to make sense of the anxiety that doesn't need to be there in the first place. This is why people with OCD experience thoughts, images, impulses that don't make much sense and are very hard to get out of their head. That's the O in OCD, obsessions. You try to reduce anxiety from obsessions. People engage in compulsions, which can include anything from repeating, counting, washing, checking, and following strict rules. It's usually doing something over and over again like a ritual until it feels right and feels complete, which does reduce anxiety for a little bit. But eventually, that anxiety comes back when you have OCD. This brings us to the defining element of OCD: doubt. People with OCD get consumed by doubt. Doubt becomes something that is so hard to get out of your head, and doubt starts spinning these narratives that keep people feeling trapped. Did I do that the right way? What if I didn't? Was that really a bump on a road? Or did I just run someone over? Did I touch the counter at Starbucks? And does that mean I have AIDS? Did I say that prayer the wrong way? Am I going to hell now? I need to keep doing this till it feels right. I need to say this the right number of times to feel right. That doesn't feel right. I need to do it again. I need to do it again. This doubt that OCD creates takes up so much time from your day. It makes it so hard to do the most basic things. No wonder it is also called the thief of time. And this doubt can end up creeping into every aspect of your life, consume your life, and make it so hard to get even the most basic stuff done. A study says most of the type of thoughts that people with OCD struggle with, these thoughts enter the mind of people who don't have OCD as well. Back when I used to go to my native and travel in trains, I used to get this thought of, would it really be that bad if I just fell into the railway tracks? And when my nephew was really small and I was doing my laundry, I thought to myself, would it be bad if I put my nephew into the laundering machine? And in those early days of the pandemic, I would just hear someone let out the lightest little cough, and then I'd wonder, did I just get COVID? Just having these thoughts doesn't mean one has OCD. We all get them from time to time. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts might be scary, but they are not dangerous. But people with OCD deeply struggle with these thoughts. They often spend more than an hour a day thinking about them, and they become obsessions for them that also develop into a doubt, and more doubt. This is all very different than someone who struggles with everyday worries about your health, your friends, your family, work, school, money, relationships, stuff like that. If one struggles with those type of worries, they are considered to be experiencing generalized anxiety disorder, which is a very different problem. But if one gets obsessed with various thoughts and images that are very difficult to get out of your own head, and if one feels compelled to do things over and over again until they feel right, that is when it is characterized as OCD. And there is hope. There are a number of medications that have been shown to be effective at helping people with OCD. Most of them target the serotonin system, which is similar to how an antidepressant works. But when they are prescribed for OCD, they are prescribed at higher doses than they are for depression. Then there is cognitive behavioral therapy, specifically exposure and response prevention. It is one of the most effective treatments for OCD. In this treatment, you learn how to stick with the situation that produces all the doubt, produces that uncertainty, and you learn how to stick with it instead of engaging in your compulsions. It works because your brain is really plastic. That means it's open to learning from new experiences and it can change. And through exposure response prevention, we take all those different parts of the brain that are highly active and not really communicating with each other and kind of cool them down. If your compulsion is to wash your hands 5 times, maybe you start by corrupting that compulsion by washing it 4 times. Or you don't wash at all. Or you purposely touch something that you believe could be contaminated and learn to move forward despite the doubt. Usually, people start this once a week, going in to see a therapist who's an expert in this type of treatment. But if one is really struggling, they might need half-day or full-day treatment, or maybe even something like an inpatient treatment, where you're staying in the hospital for a few weeks until you have some sense of control over this problem. Exposure response prevention can be difficult for some people to do so. Fortunately, There are other cognitive behavioral therapy alternatives like acceptance and commitment therapy, where you really change your relationship with what's going on inside of you. And inference based CBT, where you learn to deconstruct that narrative that OCD is creating around all that doubt. Hence, anxiety disorders, like other disorders, can be cured with the right medications and treatment. And the current generation that we are living in, it is really important to shed light on such ailments. After all, mental health is as important as our physical health. I would now like to thank All India Radio to give me this opportunity to address a topic which people might think is trivial, but the depth of which is understood and known only by the one suffering from it.
You were just listening to a talk on obsessive compulsive disorder. This talk was presented by Misbah Sayeeda M. With that, we conclude tonight's Yuvavani. This program was brought to you from the studios of All India Radio, Bangalore.